I wasn't meant to find this. I was just scrolling through YouTube in my bed late at night, about to fall asleep, but that was when something caught my eye. A random video in my feed. The title was pretty vague and the thumbnail low quality, but there was something about it. Something that made me click. And I didn't know it yet, but this video would quickly become the most terrifying thing I'd ever discover. A story filled with mystery, disturbing twists, and ultimately ending with a player losing touch with reality and going insane. But to understand how it all went wrong, we need to start at the very beginning, episode 1. The first of 9 episodes, titled A New Beginning, started like any other. The player, Softshell7, had just entered a survival Minecraft world and was eager to document his journey through YouTube. Hey everybody, I'm gonna be playing survival Minecraft and recording it to post to YouTube. Softshell then went on to mine a tree for some wood before pausing again and typing, "Oh, also please forgive me if I'm rusty. I haven't played Minecraft in a really long time." Saying that since he's now on summer break, he finally has some free time to play. He collected more wood, mined stone, crafted tools, and killed a few animals for food before stopping again. It's getting dark out now and there's so many monsters out here, so I'm gonna end the episode here. See you guys in the next. And just like that, episode 1 had already concluded, and right now everything seemed pretty normal. Nothing too unusual was happening yet. So I clicked right on to the second episode, titled Making a Little Progression. Episode 2 began fairly normal once again. Softshell7 started off the episode by greeting us, the audience, followed by then talking about his plans for the day. Hey guys, welcome back. I don't really have plans for this episode, I'ma just do what I feel. Afterwards, Softshell went on to collect even more wood, mine some coal, before pausing to mention an important detail. I forgot if I mentioned last episode, but this is actually not a single player world. It's actually my friend's server from a long time ago. My friend Mike made it a few summers ago, but that's when we had our big fight. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into that right now. Let's just keep playing. After talking about how he was actually playing on a server and not his own world, he would go on to spend the rest of the episode gathering more resources like coal and cooked food before accidentally falling off a cliff, ending the episode by saying, "I'm probably gonna end the episode here since I almost just died and it's night now. Alright, see you guys in the next episode." And just like the first episode, nothing too spectacular happened in this one either. But that would all quickly change in the next one, episode 3, plainly titled Building My House. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I think this episode I'm finally going to start building my house. It's been long enough and it will keep me safe from the monsters outside at night. Softshell7 then proceeded to show us some of the materials he'd gathered off camera in preparation for his base. And after chopping down a few of the trees in the way, he would finally begin construction. But this is where something actually weird happened. You see, Softshell's base was relatively basic, consisting of just 4 wooden walls, a cobblestone floor, chests for storage, furnace, crafting table, and would ultimately finish construction by crafting and placing a red bed. But after realizing that he somehow forgot the sand needed for his windows, would quickly leave his base and search for some. After wandering for a bit, he eventually stumbled upon a patch of sand embedded in a riverbank, jokingly saying, "That took way longer than expected." After digging it up, he would go on to say he thinks he has enough, and would then continue to travel back to his base. But this is where something incredibly bizarre took place. After a little bit, he eventually reached his destination, his home. But after walking back into his base, he noticed something pretty strange. What the heck? Oh, never mind. I thought I placed my bed. I'm so forgetful. Somehow, Softshell7 forgot that he never actually placed his bed, which by itself isn't that weird, but it becomes incredibly strange when you realize that Softshell did actually place his bed, just minutes before. Understandably, at this point I was pretty confused, but all I could really do was just continue watching the episode to see what would happen from here. But all Softshell would do was just craft a brand new red bed before jokingly saying that, "This is why I don't play when I'm tired." Soon after, episode 3 would eventually conclude with Softshell7 finally placing the windows in his house, with the episode ultimately ending with him saying, "I'm gonna end the episode here and go to bed in real life since it's getting pretty late. Good night guys, see you in the next episode." Yeah. And this episode was just weird. I think it's safe to say that there's probably only one question on most of our minds right now. That being, what happened to Softshell's bed? and initially, I had no clue. But after spending literal hours thinking about it, thinking of what could have happened, how could it happen, I honestly still didn't have a good explanation. The only thing I could think of is that maybe Softshell actually did break the bed himself and truly just forgot. And I mean, it's not that crazy of a theory. In the episode, we can clearly see that there are actually some cuts in the video, especially between when he left his base for sand and came back. Maybe he really is just that forgetful or plain out tired like he said. And this theory develops even more credibility when you realize the fact that a lot of items he had in his inventory disappeared between cuts. He obviously did something off camera, and by all means, this isn't the best explanation out there, but it's truthfully all we have to work with. So now, pulled deep into this mystery, I continued on to the next episode, episode 4, titled Built a Wheat Farm. I had to see what happened next. And just like the title suggests, Softshell 7 would start off the episode by greeting us, the audience, before showing off his new wheat farm he built off camera. After giving us a quick tour of the farm, he then proceeded to tell us what his plans were for the episode. My plans for this episode is to make a little more progress and hopefully try beating the game pretty soon. And to be totally honest, I really didn't think anything too weird would happen this episode. Softshell then went on to explore a nearby cave in hopes of finding some more resources to gear up with. And surprisingly, after just 5 minutes, he actually had a pretty successful mining trip, coming across a little more coal, copper, and even a little iron. And now, more than happy with his findings, would finally begin heading back up to the surface. After eventually finding his way out of the cave, he began heading back to his house to smelt all his iron. But that was when something peculiar happened. You see, Softshell 7 was just outside of his base, about 10 or so blocks away from the front door, when out of nowhere, he whipped around as if he heard something. He began slowly looking around, as if he was hesitant, fearful of what he might find. And then, he froze. It just completely stopped in his tracks. And he would remain this way, completely still, not moving a muscle. There was a deafening silence throughout the air. But then, he would abruptly disturb this unsettling peace with a single message. What was that? A few more seconds of looking around before typing once more. I thought I heard something. Softshell would then continue to look back and forth a couple times before sprinting towards his comfortable base. Soon after entering, he would ultimately end this episode with one final message. Okay, I'm gonna end the episode here. And honestly, this episode was stranger than the last. Softshell was headed back towards his base after a decent mining trip when out of nowhere he suddenly froze, his whole body still, looking around cautiously as if he shouldn't have been, saying he thought he heard something before quickly running into his base and suddenly cutting off the episode. What could he have heard to cause this reaction? Up until this point, Softshell had been acting relatively normal. He didn't seem like the type of guy to just act bizarrely like this for no reason whatsoever. I feel like with each episode we just get pulled further and further down the rabbit hole. So leaving with more questions than we had answers for, I felt like I had to continue on to episode 5. We must find out what exactly caused him to act like this. And brace yourself, because what we eventually uncover is truly terrifying. Episode 5, bluntly titled Making an Animal Farm, began as usual. Welcome back to another episode. I made a little more progress since last episode. Softshell had actually done a little more mining off camera and made some decent progress, showing off his brand new iron chestplate, pickaxe, and even a few diamonds he found, 3 to be exact. He would then go on to put the diamonds away in his chest before stating his plans for the day. Anyways, my plan for this episode is to make a new animal farm, mentioning he needs it for more food since he's frequently been running out. Softshell then reaped the wheat from his farm to lure the animals back to his base. After crafting a few fences, he built a small pen to store the animals before going out looking for any animals to bring back with him. After exploring for a bit, he eventually stumbled upon a herd of cows and began slowly but surely bringing them back to the farm. But after just a few seconds, he would strangely enough, once again, freeze. This time looking all around himself, inspecting his surroundings for a fraction of the time, before seemingly snapping out of it, coming back to his senses to continue back to his base. After successfully bringing the animals back to the farm, he would breed them and then say he would cut back after he got more animals. After cutting back with tons of more cows, he would begin typing out a message. Alright, before abruptly cutting himself off, closing the chat. He began looking all around himself once more, just like before suddenly running back into his house to continue on with what he was saying. Alright, I finished up the farm, I got loads of more cows, and I'm pretty happy with how the farm turned out. Before going on to say, anyways, I'm gonna end the episode here. In which afterwards, he would end the episode only after putting away his leftover materials back in the chest. Alright, bye guys. This was probably one of the most strangest episodes yet. It began fairly normal. Softshell showed off his new gear, collected his crops, stated his plans, but then soon after, things began to fall apart. Just as he was luring the cows back to the farm, how come he once again froze out of nowhere to inspect his surroundings, just like in the last episode? And it's not like these freezes are random. They always seem to startle him, but why? And until we get a better understanding of what exactly is going on, we really won't know the answer to that. I didn't want to hesitate any further. I needed answers. So I continued right on to the next episode, episode 6. And to put it frankly, this would soon become the most terrifying episode yet. Episode 6, titled Going to the Nether, began ordinarily enough. Softshell once again started this episode inside his base, just per usual, before mentioning that this episode he wanted to expand his wheat farm and try going to the Nether. He headed outside, and just as he said, began working on growing his wheat farm. After a couple minutes, he finally finished and headed back into his base after replanting all the seeds. Alright, I think it's time to finally go to the Nether. I'm gonna gear up a little more though real quick. On his way to the cave, he passed by his cows one final time before dropping down into the opening. After heading down the cave further and further, exploring every twist and turn, he eventually stumbled upon some iron, which would be used to make better tools and armor. Finally, I found some iron. After mining that vein and a few more like it, he decided it was time to finally head back up to the surface. I think I have enough iron now for armor and maybe a sword. I'm gonna go back up to smelt it and then we'll finally go to the Nether. And just as he stated, he began heading back up towards his base. What the heck? Oh. I think they all despawned. When Softshell 7 went back up to his base, he strangely enough found all of his cows dead. And although he just blames this anomaly on them merely just despawning, that just isn't the case here. You see, when a mob is left unattended and the player is far enough away, it will often despawn, completely deleted from the game. But here's the thing, mobs inside of a fenced area actually can't despawn. And even if, by some impossible chance, the cows had somehow despawned, they still wouldn't have left any drops behind. These cows have seemingly been slaughtered. But how could that be? What could have done that? Who could have done this? Every answer only seemed to open 10 more questions, each one darker than the last. So consumed by the uncertainty, I had no choice but to dive straight into the next episode. We need to uncover exactly what's going on. And I really wish I hadn't been so eager, because this was by far the most bone-chilling episode yet. The 7th episode, titled Fixing Up My House, started out just like any other. Today I'm gonna keep it chill, probably gonna do some things around the base. He then stepped outside to tend to his wheat farm, just as a clear sunny day suddenly turned to rain. It was clear he's still pretty shaken up from the last episode, as seen in his slight pauses and constant glances around, betraying a sense of unease. Using the wheat he just harvested, he went on to breed what was left of his cows before heading back inside his base. And initially, I thought that this would finally be a normal episode. But boy, was I wrong. Now inside his base, Softshell unexpectedly began breaking all of his glass windows, punching them out with his fists, as if he was trying to keep himself from seeing out, or maybe keep something from seeing in. He proceeded to fill in the gaps where the windows once were with wood, before acting just as if nothing had happened, going on to say, "I'm gonna organize a little and decorate as well." He stored some leftover farm materials in his chest, then crafted red carpet, slowly transforming his house into a cozier space. Ugh, I don't have enough. After coming to the realization he didn't have enough carpet to finish his floor, Softshell 7 crafted a new pair of shears to gather more wool. With his shears in hand, he started towards the door, with open air just ahead. What the F? What is this? Softshell had just accidentally uncovered what appeared to be a secret base beneath his house, revealed only after a creeper's explosion blew open the entrance. For a moment, he was just staring at it, in awe, as if he was hesitant to investigate any further. After a while, he eventually succumbed to the irresistible temptation to see what laid inside. He stumbled towards the pit and reluctantly crept down into the room. It began slowly examining everything inside, starting with the chest, which held a jumble of random items, including a boat, some wood, and exactly 3 diamonds, before quickly moving past the crafting table onto the furnace, which was still actively burning, cooking raw beef. He then shifted his gaze to the red bed in the corner of the cramped room, staring at it intently, frozen in thought. But then, without warning, he snapped out of his trance-like daze. He frantically began scrambling to cover the base, shoving dirt in every gap, his camera bouncing wildly as if his hands were shaking uncontrollably. He didn't leave a single spot uncovered, the earth packed all the way to the surface. When he finally finished, he whipped around a full 180 and bolted from the house, rain pounding on his head, mud and dirt squelching beneath his feet. He kept running away from his house, panic-stricken, as if something were chasing him. He didn't look back once. And that was when the episode abruptly ended. Obviously, after watching this, I was left completely stunned. And there's a lot to unpack here, so let's just jump right into it. Number 1, why was he constantly glancing around as if he was nervous about something? Number 2, what drove him to suddenly smash the windows in his base and barricade them with wood? And number 3, why on earth was there a hidden room lurking beneath his house, concealed from view? Let's just get right into the first question. Why was he constantly glancing around? Looking back at the previous episodes, we can see that every time he appeared alert or uneasy, he was always outside. Every single time. It was as if his home was his place of refuge. But as to why he was acting just so paranoid, I honestly don't know yet. That was until I began digging further. You see, after harvesting all the wheat from his farm, he cast one last quick glance over his shoulder before rushing back inside his base. That's when he began smashing all his windows and replacing them with oak planks. And at first, I thought it was just a design choice. But now, with more context, it's clear. He did this out of fear. He's scared of something peeking into his small sanctuary. But what? What is he scared of? Who is he scared of? It's obvious, those quick little glances, constantly scanning his surroundings, freezing for moments at a time to listen, they were all connected. Connected to why he smashed his windows and boarded them up. He was driven by a fear of something. And what that exact something was, we don't know yet. And how dare we even forget about that weird secret room hidden underneath his house? What was that? Who built that? At first, I brushed it off as nothing more than a coincidence. In the second episode, Softshell mentioned he wasn't in a single-player world at all, but on an old server his friend Mike had once hosted. So maybe that room had just been there all along, buried underground, and Softshell just happened to build his house right on top of it, by pure chance. So, mystery solved, right? Nothing strange about it. But the more I thought about it, the less sense that made. Because if that were true, then how do you explain the red bed? Identical to the one that mysteriously disappeared back in episode 3, sitting down there. And not just the bed, but a whole pile of other missing items too. Remember in episode 5 when he showed off the new gear he'd found while mining off camera? An iron chestplate, a pickaxe, and most importantly, exactly 3 diamonds? He stored the diamonds safely in a chest, but later, after returning home, he checked that chest again and they were gone. Just like that, the diamonds had completely vanished without a trace, leaving behind a perfectly empty spot where they had just been. By now, it's impossible to ignore. Something else is at play. It's not just Softshell 7 anymore. And whatever it is, it's horrifying. I mean, come on. The furnace in the mysterious room was still on, actively cooking food as if it had just been used moments ago. And yet, nobody was there. At least, nobody we could see. Something about it felt wrong. I couldn't put my finger on it. Just this uneasy sense that something was coming, though I really had no clue what. At this point, I hesitated, unsure if I even wanted to move on to the next episode. Every part of me was screaming no, but curiosity, or maybe something much darker, kept me from turning away. I ultimately decided I would click. And I didn't know it yet, but this would prove to be my worst mistake so far. The moment I clicked onto episode 8, something immediately felt wrong. Maybe it was the title, strangely simple yet chilling. Everything is gone. But there was still this heavy sense of dread deep inside me. I didn't know why, but I forced myself to brush it off and keep watching. Hi guys, sorry for the last episode. I thought about it for a while and I'm gonna go back to my base. I was just being overdramatic. He tried to laugh it off, apologizing for what happened before. Then he added, I saw what everyone was saying in the comments. I want to apologize. The base under my house was probably just a glitch, I think. That's what you guys think too. Keep those comments in the back of your mind for later. They'll matter soon enough. After greeting the audience, Softshell proceeded to head back towards his base. And he didn't know it yet, but this would become his biggest mistake ever. He walked slowly, movement tense, still glancing back over his shoulder. He had been doing it for episodes now, but this time it felt heavier, like he was certain he heard something. When he finally arrived, he forced a joke, saying everything looked fine. I must fix my base up now. He replaced the broken blocks and made the place look whole again. For a moment, everything seemed normal, almost safe. But then he noticed his food was low. He turned to the furnaces, dropping in some raw beef and pork chops, waiting for them to cook. And then, actually, I'll just let it play out. What? What happened? I can't take it anymore. This isn't normal. This isn't real. I know it. Someone is watching me. Someone is here with me. I can't take it. Everybody says it's not true, but it is. I hear sounds. I hear someone. Something is there. I hear it. I see it. I feel it. It watches. I just cannot handle it. This isn't the last time. This isn't it. My house is gone. My house is gone. Everything. Why? But maybe what everyone's saying is right. It's not possible. I can't take it. Maybe they're all right. I'm losing my mind. This world, I'm done. I'm sorry. I just cannot. Every sound I hear, nobody else can. Everything I see, I just don't know what's wrong with me. Something is not right. I'm losing my mind. I really don't know what to think anymore. I don't know what to believe, myself or everybody else. Maybe they are right. They are right. Out of nowhere, his house caught on fire. One spark, and then it spread, racing across the wood until within just minutes, the whole plot was engulfed, flames climbing, ash pouring into the air. And what came next would be one of the most bizarre yet oddly terrifying rants I've ever seen in my life. By this point, it was clear Softshell's paranoia had completely consumed him. Whatever was driving these outbursts wasn't just in the game anymore. It had worn him down piece by piece until he sounded like someone on the edge of losing himself entirely. He was, quite frankly, on the brink of insanity. And remember those comments I mentioned earlier? The ones he kept bringing up? He was actually talking about the ones left under his previous upload, episode 7. Comments such as,
"The way you act makes me think you're crazy. Dude, you are literally going insane."
What is wrong with you? You act as if you have schizophrenia.
And as harsh as those comments all were, the truth is, they weren't entirely wrong. By now, it really did seem like Softshell 7 had slipped off the deep end, consumed by paranoia, losing touch with reality. His movements, his behavior, even the way he reacted to sounds that simply weren't there. There was no doubt, he was losing his mind. This was just depressing, but sadly enough, it kind of explains everything. Seeing things that aren't there, hearing sounds that don't exist, moving erratically in strange patterns. Softshell 7 had been slowly unraveling throughout the episodes, going insane. These weren't just quirks or paranoia anymore, they were clear signs of hallucinations, the kind you expect in a full-on schizophrenic episode. And now, for the first time ever, everything began adding up. Softshell was simply falling apart. We now knew the root cause of everything. And as I was ready to finally go to bed, thinking the mystery was solved, I realized that there was actually one more episode, one we hadn't watched yet. So casually, I clicked, not thinking much of it. And I didn't know it then, but this story was truly only beginning. Episode 9, titled Moving On, once again started with Softshell apologizing to us, the audience. "Sorry I haven't posted in a while, I just needed a break. I apologize for being so overdramatic. I see your comments and I'm sorry, I lied and disappointed you guys. Sorry about saying I heard sounds and saw things, it was all lies." It was a strange start. He wasn't just apologizing for the break, he was apologizing for everything. For being dramatic, for lying, for insisting that he heard footsteps or saw something in the corner of his screen. And the comments he mentioned, they were harsh. People had filled the last episode's comment section calling him a fraud, saying he was making things up for attention, accusing him of faking the paranoia. But the way he addressed it felt off. It wasn't the defensive tone of someone caught in a lie. It was quiet, almost rehearsed, like he was trying to convince himself as much as us. And that's what made it so unsettling, because if he really was lying, he wouldn't look so broken while admitting it. He sounded sick, restless, like someone trying desperately to cover up a crack in his own mind. I could tell that something was certainly off, but maybe now I was just thinking too much into it. So without a second thought, I let the video keep playing, hoping it would finally give us some closure, or at least a glimpse of the truth. This episode I'm just gonna keep it chill and hopefully build a new base far away. It was obvious, he was still clinging to those memories from the last episode, choosing to build his new house as far away as he could, as if he was trying to outrun what had happened. But little did he know, the past always catches up with you. I'm gonna look for a nice spot to build it. After exploring for a while, he eventually reached a cave where he paused. I'm gonna actually explore in here real quick, maybe I'll find some iron or coal. He decided to take a quick pit stop in a nearby cave, hoping to find some new materials after previously losing a majority of his loot in the house fire. And he didn't realize it just yet, but this would soon become his worst mistake ever. After entering the cave, he began following the natural path, leading him deeper and deeper down the cavern. After placing a torch on the wall, lighting up the vast darkness, he finally spotted a vein of iron ore jutting out from the rock. Eagerly, he stumbled towards it and began mining. But then, abruptly, he froze, jolting his camera slightly towards the left. And he just stood there, completely still, as if he was trying to make something out from the cave's suffocating shadow. But after just a few seconds, he stumbled back, pausing for a moment. And then, he whipped around and tore off, running for his life. His camera shook violently, jerking with every step. He sprinted, twisting back every few seconds as if something was chasing him. The cavern echoed with each frantic footfall, shadows stretching and flickering in the torchlight, swallowing every corner he passed. Between gasps and desperate strides, he managed to type a single panicked message. "Holy shoot!" He tore through the cavern, twisting and turning, the darkness seeming to close in around him with every step, as if the shadows themselves are closing in around him. And then, the video ended. This was terrifying. It all began normal, simply just greeting the audience, but then it quickly evolved to something much, much darker. Just why did he suddenly start running as fast as he could? What was he running from? Who was he running from? And this is when I came to a disturbing realization. This episode was the last episode he would ever post to his channel. No more videos, no more updates, nothing. He had seemingly vanished after posting this 9th episode, gone without a trace. I'll admit it, at this point I felt kind of hopeless. Without any more videos, we'd be going into this mystery blind. And that meant every answer we uncovered could be the difference between understanding or never knowing the truth at all. I hesitated for hours, unsure if I actually wanted to find the answer. But eventually, I made the decision. We need to find out exactly what drove him insane before he ultimately disappeared without a trace. And prepare yourselves, because this rabbit hole is only just beginning. I first started my investigation by looking to see if he had any other social media accounts. I checked on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Reddit. I checked on everywhere I could think of. But after searching for a while, I found nothing. And that's when I realized that if we actually wanted a chance at solving this mystery, we would have to dig a lot deeper than surface level. That's when it hit me. Maybe the answer was buried in his old episodes. If we rewatched every single one, frame by frame, maybe we'd catch something we'd missed before. It was a long shot, honestly. The chances of finding anything useful were almost zero. But we had nothing else left to go on. This was it. If this doesn't work, the mystery is over. Dead. So reluctantly, I went all the way back to episode 1 and pressed play. And at first, I didn't find anything. And that was the same case for the second episode as well. Everything was relatively normal, but that would all change in episode number 3. You see, remember in the 3rd episode when Softshell's bed suddenly went missing? Well, initially I just kept this in the back of my mind, thinking it was nothing more than a continuity error, a slight oversight. But that was until I saw it. Did you see it? After noticing he didn't have enough sand for the windows, he made his way down to the river to gather what he needed. But that's when he passed something. I took a closer look and realized something horrifying. These were invisibility particles. The same particles that show up when a player drinks an invisibility potion. At first, I tried to shrug it off, just the game doing its thing. Maybe a wandering trader had drunk an invisibility potion. Or a witch was hiding from the night before. That's what I wanted to believe. But something inside of me still felt uneasy. I warily clicked onto the next video. Episode 4, desperate for answers. This was the episode where he built the wheat farm. Nothing disturbing at all. So I began inspecting every single minute, every second. And that's when I saw it, something that only lasted a single frame. Here, you probably haven't spotted it yet. Well, let me zoom in. There is no doubt in my mind anymore. This is a player. And coincidentally, this is the same episode where he froze, claiming he heard something. Whoever it was, they were behind every strange noise, every odd thing he saw, taking his red bed, his diamonds, killing all the cows, the secret base under his home, even setting the house on fire. It was all them. And that's when I came to the most terrifying realization of them all. Softshell 7 wasn't actually insane. Everything he said was true. And what's even more depressing is that nobody ever seemed to believe him. All the comments were dismissing him, calling him crazy, always trying to find some logical reason to explain what's going on. And I can't blame them. I mean, we were doing the same exact thing. I kept going through each episode. Maybe there were more clues I'd missed. And that's where I saw it. In episode 5, while he's looking through his furnace, the same blacked out figure can be seen watching from the background. Or maybe in episode 6, when he's mining in a cave, there's an unmistakable black figure hidden in the back, blending in with the darkness. Episode 7, it's there again, watching as he tends to his cows. In episode 8, we can literally hear the click of the flint and steel as they light the house on fire. In each episode, it was there, always. Well, in every episode except the last. Episode 9. I watched the footage countless times, frame by frame, zooming in. But still, the figure didn't seem to be there. That is, until I tried brightening the image. They were there, hidden, watching, perched up on a rock. And this is what Softshell saw. This is why he ran. This is why he acted that way. It all makes sense now. And the saddest part is, he knew it the whole time, but every time he tried telling us, we all brushed it off, dismissing him as if he was going insane. Even in his own comment section, they were always trying to explain the unexplainable on every episode. For example, when his house burned down in episode 8, all the comments insisted it was just a lightning strike and that he was overreacting, despite the fact it wasn't even raining. The sky was perfectly clear that day. Comments such as,
I think your house was just struck by lightning. It's obvious you're going insane. Stop posting, maybe. Take a break.
You sound like a crazy man. Stop it. You are literally crazy. Keep this guy away from society. Your house got struck by lightning, bro.
The house was struck by lightning, Lamau. You think everything is some creepy, scary thing. It's funny, you are literally crazy.
One thing remained the same across all the comments on his channel. They always, without failure, called him crazy. Even on his final episode, the comments persisted.
Bro is running from nothing, scared, liar, and crazy.
This is so funny how crazy you are. You should be committed. What are you running from? Hallucinations? Lol.
Now bro is hallucinating.
Running from air, liar, hallucinator. Stop it, Sam, now. You are crazy, man. You are going insane.
Wait a second. Stop it, Sam. Softshell never mentioned his name was Sam in any of his videos, not even once. And I made sure I checked each message he sent in-game, his bio, his username, but no, his name was not listed anywhere. And that's when I realized something disturbing. Whoever commented this must know Softshell in one way or another, and that's when I came across something even more unsettling. Every single comment on his channel came from an account with a first name, last name, and 3 random numbers. Every single one. Every commenter followed the exact same username format. So I started looking into these accounts, and that's when I discovered something truly bizarre. All of these accounts were all created on the same exact day. Every single one. Sophia Miller 247, Lucas Foster 117, Lily Adams 438, James Howard 376, Isabella Morris 734, Liam Cooper 193, Ava Mitchell 702. The list goes on. There were 20 accounts total, all made on the same date. It was more than obvious now. All these comments, all these accounts, they were all made by the same person. But that leads us into our next big question. Who? Well, and please just hear me out on this. It will all make sense. What if, somehow, some way, this person making all of these comments, calling Softshell crazy, was the same person who's been hiding in his world? And the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Every single comment always tried to explain the impossible, whether it was the red bed disappearing, all the cows dying, or even his house burning down. They always had some logical excuse, one that never really made any sense. One thing remained consistent. They always pushed the idea that Softshell 7 was imagining it all, hallucinating. They called him crazy. It's clear now, this was a front. The person in his world was covering their tracks, twisting explanations so Softshell would never suspect the truth. And once Softshell began catching on, they escalated, labeling him as insane, as if he had truly lost his mind. It was all a carefully constructed lie. But that now raises a new, chilling question. We now know the person hiding in his world, causing all these impossible events, is the same one leaving the comments, but just exactly who are they? And why'd they go to such extreme lengths just to make Softshell think he's losing his mind? I thought about it for hours. I couldn't even sleep that night. And then, it finally hit me. The moment they called him Sam. It all made sense. Whoever this is, they clearly know him in real life. And then I started thinking thinking about who it could possibly be. And suddenly, it all connected. Every piece, every detail. Do you remember earlier in episode 2 when Softshell starts to explain that he isn't actually playing his own world, but a server? I forgot if I mentioned it in the last episode, but this is actually not a single player world. It's actually my friend's server from a long time ago. My friend Mike made it a few summers ago, but that's when we had our whole big fight. I'm not gonna get into that right now. What if his friend Mike was a mysterious player, secretly watching him this entire time? What if this was Mike's version of revenge? We don't know the details of their fight, but maybe he'd been holding a grudge all these years. After all, it's Mike's server. He has full control. I mean, who else would be able to do this? What if his plan was to make Softshell 7 question his own mind, to slowly drive him insane, psychologically torturing him? And the most depressing part? Softshell 7 is still out there, somewhere, living with the anguish, believing he truly lost his mind. We may never know what truly happened to Softshell 7, or as we now know him, Sam, following his disappearance. But wherever he is, I just hope that he finally found some peace. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know that I just made a Discord server. The link's in the pinned comment. I'll be hanging out there and doing some cool events, as well as showing teasers for upcoming videos. So make sure to join that. Anyways, please like and subscribe, and thank you guys for watching.